Hello everyone, this is Greyshot117
And Greyshot151 here.
and possibly a Kirby, we'll see. But anyway, both of us are here today to cover Company Heroes to Infantry and rank them once again in a tier list to end the year. We're going to be going
Yes.
through frontline infantry for the Germans, the Allies, and then we're going to go to support weaponry for the Axis and Allies, as well as maybe cover some other tier lists on some other topics for the next 2 months or so. We'll see. But for right now, we got the Germans to talk about, specifically their frontline infantry. And what makes this better is we actually have a little more detail thanks to more info mod, which I was able to download and attach. So I have that on the side. So in case I look to my left, that's what I'm referencing. And B, we actually have a new unit compared to last time.
We do.
There's been some alterations to units since the last time we did this, including the addition of the Luftwaffe officer to the Osteer, which is which wasn't on a previous tier list that we tried to look up. So I had to make my own.
Yeah, well, this is the 2022 Redux. I think that people have done it in the past. Like, we found some old ones, but we thought to, bring it up to snuff, bring it into the 2022/2023 light, and
Yes.
get this all prepped. That way we can do this possibly for CO3 when that releases, when the Italians are the S tier faction.
Absolutely, can't wait. But right now, we got ourselves the Osteer and OKW to cover, and the first unit of the day is going to be the Pioneer.
The
Because,
classic.
yeah, even though the Pioneer, you might say, is a little bit more of a support unit, in a lot of 1v1s, especially like the one I covered today, its primary purpose is still assault. So, as a frontline unit, as well as a healing unit in all of its roles, how does the Pioneer do when stacked up against all the infantry?
I think when you stack it up, I think it's weaker than a lot of the other close range combat
Yeah,
units. Like, it's a good unit. Especially, I think people undervalue how good this unit is, especially when you get in cover. Like, it can actually hold its own against riflemen if it's in cover and they go across a lot of territory to go fight it.
yeah.
The problem, though, is it doesn't have the lethality of the other German counterpart of the Sturm Pioneers. Those are devastating, especially when enemies are caught off guard. You can mow through plenty of units. But I think for these, they're a little bit softer. They're still strong, but they have better ability. It does have the access to the flamethrower, which unless you get
Yeah.
a commander, the Sturm Pioneer does not. But overall, I think it's a bit weaker. What are your thoughts?
My thing about it as well is, you're right, it is weaker than its variant for the OKW, which would be the Sturm. It does, from what it says here in the more unit info, it seems to have better repair rates, so that's one positive. But
Yeah.
But again, it's also constructing. It's also building bunkers and mines and other things in your base. It's also, and it does. Was it the Storm Pioneer gets some construction upgrades, which is great, whatever. But like, its primary role in combat versus infantry, if you get the flamethrower, it can be pretty solid.
Yeah.
Um,
And you
the
can't put the Minesweeper away like the Sturm Pioneer. So once you get
Yeah,
it, you're kind of.
that's true. Storm Pioneer has the option to put it away, which is I would say it's a bit of a negative. Plus, it only has 3 veterancy compared to 5 for the Sturm, but that's
Yep.
more of a faction thing. But for the unit itself, I would probably say it's average. It has some negatives to it, has some positives, but I won't say it's anything too spectacular. So I think B tier is fine.
I think B is exactly where I wanted to put this because you do get access to construction equipment, a whole bunch of stuff. It's good on the front line. You just need to know how to use this,
Yes.
and it definitely has some strong weaknesses, which is why definitely B tier compared to where I think we're gonna put its OKW counterpart.
All right, guys. So next up, we're talking about the Jaeger Command Squad.
Indeed.
I realize I just have 2 of these here, so I'm going to move one down to the OKW. We'll get to the Jaeger Light Infantry later. Right now, the Jaeger Command Squad is different than its counterpart. The first major distinction of it, again, they both have. Again, I would say they're both relatively good. Again, the Jaeger Command Squad has the G43. It does have, again, still the ability to snipe targets from away, camouflage, I believe. But the thing about it that I would say that is beneficial to it is the Faust. It does have a Faust and rifle grenade, which does make it pretty good. Actually, I need to restart that one more time.
No worries.
All right. Sorry. Last time, I swear. All right. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. No, it doesn't. Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right, so next up, it's the Jaeger Command Squad, different than the Jaeger Light Infantry. We'll get to that later. I realized to put them both down next to each other. But the Jaeger Command Squad is different from the JLI. A couple notable factors. It doesn't have the surprise factor that the Jaeger Light Infantry does, but it does have the firepower that makes it stand out. First off, it's a 5-man squad and comes with one G43. It does come with smoke, a Panzerfaust, as well as a rifle grenade that you unlock at Battle Phase 1. As well as a flare at Vet 1. Its veterancy abilities is additional accuracy, as well as healing out of cover, and as well as 20% recharge on the Panzerfaust, less accuracy received, less damage. So has a number of nice little perks. So that can help. That can definitely help itself survive and dish out damage against the enemy. Again.
The main problem I see with this, though, is the fact that you are using this at medium to long-term range, which is good. I mean, you don't want to be, like, throwing... it's rare that there's not a lot of infantry you want to do in close quarters. This is for better in open turn range, like Red Ball Express or Steps, something, those types of open maps where you can wear down the enemy at range. The problem, though, comes in line of you don't want to fight this close range, and... once you get past that, like early upgrades, it kind of falls off in the late game, especially when compared to like, I can even like Obosodan, like such things.
Yeah.
Like these aren't like the heavier hitters that you want. They're good for when you get them early on, but not like late. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but I think that this comes into a doctrine. I again could be wrong here, but I believe it's Storm Doctrine. You get these guys, and that comes with a native camouflage, so you could technically upgrade these guys with it.
Yeah, Jaeger Infantry and Storm. I can confirm.
Okay, so I guess you get that way. So I was like, wait a second, it does it natively, but with the upgrade. But again, I still think they're pretty powerful. You only get one. That's the counterpoint. You only get one of these suckers, so you're not going to see a spam of them. But we're judging by its overall utility and use, and as a single unit, I say it's a very good unit. With essentially, it's a upgraded Grenadier. It has more abilities, more perks. I can't really think of any drawbacks to it because it already comes with G43s. It already maybe the building component, but I feel like Grenadiers are more likely to attack rather than build.
I would stress that the close range is a weakness in regards to this, but another strength I believe is, if I'm not mistaken, these are excellent at sniping the last squad in most units. Like if I'm whenever I see these units, for whatever reason, I associate them with getting the last man kills on a squad. Like they're just very good at getting like just the one man pick. So if you're in a long range engagement and you just want to wear the enemy down, I think these are solid. This is a solid unit option.
Yeah, it's not a unit that's going to help you like. The problem is with this unit, unlike others, is it's not like Panzerfusiliers or Ostruppen or something where you can mass produce them, right? This is one unit,
it's much
so it's
slower.
support. Yeah. But yes, so I would say A tier because it does have some negative drawbacks to it. Nothing too critical, but it's the fact that you can't. This isn't going to be an army, right? This is going to be a leader infantry to help you bust through in support. So
against support, I'm pretty sure these are the units. Are these the ones that are pretty good against the British as well? Like they're really good at sniping early British. Yeah. Okay. Then I would say definitely A tier for that alone. The fact that they're great against one specific faction in particular, because that early game knocking out the British is so powerful. So yeah, I would say definite A tier.
Don't worry.
If they were a bit tankier, then I would say maybe we could talk about S. But for right now, I'd just say A.
Well, let's talk about something that's definitely not going near S. Asgrens, or Assault Grenadiers. These guys are known for close-range combat. They upgrade to a 6-man model to make them better, which, again, they needed. Again, they also capture rate is increased by 20%. 5% received accuracy as well when you get that veteran squad leader. Their bonuses include weapon cooldown decreasing and received accuracy decreasing. So, again, you could definitely get some bonuses if you stack those. Especially with veterancy. Increase accuracy at Vet 3 and 25% range of the grenade assault, which is a lot of grenades, but it's also 30 munitions compared to a couple doctrines that have infiltration grenades where
with
all the
15. I think it's like 15 or 20. It's like super cheap. It's
more
like,
of a build-up.
Why don't you use it?
Yeah, it does have a sprint, but only lasts 5 seconds and does cost a decent amount. Again, it does go down a little I mean, like, it does have some veterancy perks, but again, I don't think it's that, and it can build a bunker. So I guess
But like this is so specialized for the doctrines you're going with. Like who really
yeah,
wants to use these? Like if you're going like the other caveat that we haven't mentioned in our previous is the fact like, Storm, the Jaeger infantry, the doctrines we're not going to bring in, but they are a component to these units because their strengths and weaknesses also could go with the availability of this, right?
yeah,
Assault grens are very specialized, so it's like someone that wants better pioneers and wants to focus on them. I don't think anyone's picking a commander because it has an assault grenadier, right? Like they're good at close range, but in open terrain they're screwed. So you play steps, you play I don't know, red ball, you play anything that has a long area you got to walk across. You're just asking to get these guys shredded. And then they don't have any AT snares. So if you're playing let's say, I don't know, White Ball Express, and a British UC character just comes up, he doesn't have to worry about you at all. There's nothing to fear.
Yeah.
So I would say that because you're forcing yourself down a doctrine to get these, they're good close range, they're better than Pioneers, but the fact that the Pioneer is guaranteed to every the Pioneer is guaranteed to every member, while these are just specialized, means that I think that kind of suffers. So
also lack of AT does it there other
like I said, there's
have
nothing to stop it, and that's such a key component, especially recently where it's felt like there's more early game, light armor. Yeah.
So I'm thinking C or D with these guys because
I think just D.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. They definitely have their use, but again, I feel like in more roles, even its best role of close range combat, there are other infantry better than it on the allied side.
I'm looking at the doctrines right now that this has, and just to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. And yeah, you do. I will say there is probably the best upside to this, which is the car. Getting this in the mechanized assault group and deploying this. Getting that in the back of a half track and dropping it behind enemy lines. That's the best case scenario. But if the enemy has an AT gun and it stops you, what also stops you from getting Panzergrenadiers? You know what I mean? There's that option as well. That you can upgrade with Panzerschrecks, and you get a high explosive bundle. You get a grenade that can wipe infantry squads. So when you're putting that in comparison, I think these just fall flat.
Yeah, no, I agree. So honestly, C tier. Next up, we have Grenadier. I think this is going to be the first S tier. I think this is.
Oh yeah, I would say easy S tier for this one because they're kind of your standard infantry, but they're so good at what they do. A low S. But still a solid S because of the AT
We can always move stuff around as well. I don't want too many S tiers. Maybe a high A tier would probably be. Because the reason immediately it goes to mind is because the Grenadier comes with your standard rifle grenade, and they also come with a Panzerfaust. Those plus a bunker ability to upgrade. 240, so relatively cheap. They have, again, a lot of the same veterancy perks that I just mentioned with the Air Command Squad. They don't have the smoke, per se, but again, it's just, this is your standard frontline infantry, so you're producing numerous units. And relatively speaking, I think they can go toe-to-toe with most British encounters, most American encounters, most Soviet encounters. The issue would be the heaviest and the most upgraded of Brits, the most upgraded of the Americans, like the riflemen with double bars. That's going to put them in a disadvantage.
But early game, they're so good with their bars. I mean, the rifle grenade, especially when you're fighting. The G42. The thing I wanted to also stress is the rifle grenade, especially when you're fighting infantry in heavy cover, which usually is your Brits, your Americans are really going to try to get close to these units, right? So it's really your Brits or your Soviets that you're going to be fighting heavy cover wars with, and that rifle grenade can shut down MGs, mortars. It is so potent when infantry is compact. I've wiped squads with it, and I would prefer it honestly over, let's say, just a grenade from the Americans. So I easily with the abilities, and then all the commanders that just give it extra bonuses or accentuate it. I think this is a low S, high A, but we'll see how everything develops going forward.
I don't want to have too many S tier. I think 3 at most. So this again, immediately goes up to S tier for its capabilities and stuff. and also the cost and everything. But I could easily see myself redoing it because there is a drawback I just thought of, and the drawback is, well, first off, there are some doctrines. It's 4 men. It does have G43 upgrade on some commanders, which is pretty good. It also has the squad leader upgrade, which also, I mean, used to be amazing, maybe a little less so, but so I think that doctrine's overall okay. The first aid kit, because a lot of German players will build a bunker. They'll have a half track, and they'll heal that way, so you don't have to waste munitions. So waiting to get that veterancy upgrade to do that heal, I just find is a little
redundant for the meta. Yeah,
it's there, but I don't think a lot of meta players or a lot of players up will be like, well, 10 munitions. And instead, they'll be like, I'll just build a bunker.
If you're being hyper aggressive, maybe, but that's like,
yeah.
Again, we're thinking, like, by the way, for anyone that is tuning in, we're 3v3, 4v4 players. Like, we don't look at the 1v1, 2v2 metas really all that much. So medics could be great then, but for like a team game when you're trying to also heal yourself and your allies, the bunker just makes way more sense.
Yeah. All right, so we'll leave it there for the time being.
Cool.
Next up, we have we have Stormtroopers.
Yeah, Stormtroopers. Now, these guys, I think, are very specialized, and, they're not great. Let me just say this right now. They're not like the units you call out because they're going to knock out the American souped-up riflemen, right? They're for memes.
They can knock out an army, but not themselves. It's through the commander.
Hey, look, these guys are for the memes. They're for the close the pockets. They're for they're for the fun shenanigans you can pull off. And for that alone, I have a warm spot for them in my heart for the stuff you could do to the enemy. Not good things, very bad things.
Yeah. Here's my drawbacks to them before I get to the positives. They have an upgrade with a Shrek, but it's 1 Shrek. So you're not, even if you had a Katusha, you have to get damn lucky that you hit it and then make sure you keep shooting it to make sure it's confirmed dead, because it's not going to kill it by itself. So otherwise you need 2. Another instance is the incendiary grenade is okay. It's good for burning away the emplacement. The capture points caches, right? Mm-hmm. But against other infantry, it's fine. I prefer to have actual grenades, but it does have a utility. How do I put this? A lot of people will get, specifically with this unit, obsessed with deploying them. And if people are guarding the buildings or other stuff like that, it can be something that can be very easily turned against you.
Mine plus demo plus Stormtrooper equals very sad Germans.
Yes. Positives, the close range weapons are pretty solid and is a free upgrade. G43s cost money. Same thing with the Shreks, but again, not too bad, all things considered. It does have booby trap territory, so if you do capture a point, you could sabotage it.
It's kind of funny how it has so many abilities. Like, it's got fire grenade, you get like the fire grenade, smoke grenade, stun grenade, sprint.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many extra abilities to this, but for most people, it's a one and done. Like, this unit is 340 manpower, chuck it out, it dies, and you're happy if it gets back. Yeah. And honestly, I don't think I'm not sure if there's like a comparison or like something comparable, but maybe definitely partisans. But like,
partisans are more expensive for reinforce rate. That's my thing.
This thing though, I think is good for the role you're gonna get, right? If you want to break munition points, attack Katyushas, go after stuff in the back lines, it's very solid for what it does in its specialized role. Like, you don't want to put this on a map that has no buildings. You put this on, like, I don't know, Port of Hamburg. The enemy can blow up a few buildings, and you're going to just be very sad. Like, it's... Yeah. You want, like, a very industrial-sized building so you can... That way the enemy is always wary that these can pop at any moment. Something
a City
like
17.
City 17. Your red ball expresses or white ball expresses to get behind enemy lines and do the close the pockets.
Still risky with a few buildings, but it's better. The map is designed to be encircled. To be
absolutely. I think when you stack this up, you're not using this for its power, using this for what it can do. And because the fact that it benefits the commanders that you have this in, specifically close the pocket, I think is the strongest. But it also helps out and you're doing like long range, like if you don't have a direct strike, this is the next best thing to like hit stuff in the back lines. So overall, I think I would give this a B or an A. Like, just because
if you're killing stuff in the back, right? Even if you do that, Yeah, it has to be rocket artillery or something very weak. Maybe you steal armor. I've done that like once or twice.
You steal a Sherman that's healing?
Yeah.
That fun times.
But it does also natively heal rather than the Grenadiers where you have to pay. So I have to vet one. So that's a positive. But overall, I would probably say because of its very specific role and out of the most common doctrine you're probably going to see it with is encirclement, but you don't get the G43. So it's fine close range with that free upgrade, right?
Yeah.
But it's not the best close range unit. It's not. So I would say B tier. It's better than the Pioneer.
Good at what it does, but not great at anything else. Like, really,
Yes.
and you're just kind of happy if it lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to run through, like, 4 lines of enemy defenses at once. Like, 4 or 5 infantry units, usually a machine gun. You know, like, you're happy if this thing comes back alive with one-man squad, like, 1 man left.
Yeah, no, seriously. Okay, so now let's talk about the new unit, the reason why I had to redo the tier list, the Luftwaffe Field Officer. This ability gets the Stuka Suppression Run at Vet 1, a Recon Pass that costs 40 munitions, so honestly a pretty good deal. You get Inspiring Aura, which gives a 15% accuracy for infantry and reload speed by 13% for vehicles. Again, not a huge range, but does last for 20 seconds. Diversion, so it takes 25% more accuracy on the move and takes 20% less accuracy. And it call in a free smoke drop. For the unlocks, again, 40% range for all abilities at Vet 2, and again, less received accuracy. And then the Aura gives additional accuracy and reload speed. It does boost that a little bit at Vet 3 and additional accuracy for the unit. It's not as good as the other officer. Let me be very clear. There's a specific officer we'll get to that is quite literally OP. This is not. I still find it useful for its air abilities, though a good enemy team with AA could cause some havoc with it. Yeah. Not great because it is a pass, so you can call it in from your side and it'll go into the enemy, but maybe it won't go very far.
It's also relatively cheap. Like it's not something. It's not the most durable unit, like per se. Like 240 manpower, and you're not getting your bang for your buck when it comes to like.
No, it's truly support.
Yeah, this is. If you throw this at their enemy rifleman, it is effed. It is not coming back home in one piece.
Yep. But it's support. It doesn't have the greatest attack, but I will say its support functionality. Even the cheap 60 munition airstrike, at least it's causing suppression. Maybe it's not the best, but it is doing that. It's trying to do its role. So honestly, to keep it short and sweet, I think this unit has a lot of good support options that aren't too expensive, but I think there are other officers that do better, and I would say this one's a B tier.
I was thinking C because compared to the other officer, it's kind of average, and you're kind of stuck. Like, there's only one commander that this, right? There's only the one?
Yeah, one commander, yeah.
So, like, is anyone choosing the commander because of this, and is this really benefiting that commander?
Do you have the commander up on your screen?
Yeah, I just pulled it up right now. Luftwaffe Supply Doctrine.
That one has a recon, right?
It does not.
Okay, so this would be its recon that you would use for that doctrine.
For the heavy bombing strike. So very okay. Looking over this now, very munition heavy. I'll go with B tier. I'll go with a soft B, but I'll put it at the bottom of B.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Again, take your pick. I think the abilities itself, I forgot that doctrine. If it did have a recon ability, because this is technically cheaper than the half-track recon that the OKW gets, so I could see some utility there. Trying to save a little bit of resources for your allies. So low B, I think is a good position, or upper C. You know what? You're right. That is munition. Oh wait, no, the aura is only how much? The aura is 25 munitions, so it's a nice small boost. So
yeah, a little, but like I don't know. I'd rather have the.
There are other abilities that are native rather than that. You know what? I'll go with you. I'll put upper C tier.
Okay.
I think it's better than the Asgrens.
No, I agree. I agree with that. I'm just saying, like, where I'd put it, like, are you going to spend 25 munitions on accuracy, or are you going to spend 25 munitions on a grenade that'll kill the enemy?
Okay. Can we talk about the unit that is seriously overpowered?
Yeah.
Alrighty. So let's talk about the artillery officer for the OKW. Again, I'm realizing that this may not have the most up to date in terms of abilities and stuff, but
After it was boosted, it's just like it's much more on people's radar now than it used to be.
So I think this is the high S tier right now. Without even talking about its abilities, I think high S tier is where it goes.
I mean, yeah, based on in regards to that, the fact that its commanders are also very meta oriented right now, with direct strikes being like the thing. Because you have this sucker. I mean, even in direct strikes, you have this sucker in what is this? Joint operations, and it has artillery, Pack 43. Yeah, like this thing's in a lot of good doctrines. I'll just put it flatly like that.
Yeah, the artillery, and again, the reason why I say things might be off slightly is because I'm seeing this and it's a little bit different. It doesn't have an ability, which I know it does. So apologies if I'm getting some stats incorrect. But this unit has the heavy barrage, which I think a lot of people enjoy and like. But the main thing is, again, like you said, it's that coordinate fire ability that literally will call down hell from all the. Let's just say the warfers you have. Let's just say that it will call down all of it on that point, and it's a free strike, which in a lot of 3v3s and 4v4s is literally the clinch to taking and holding territory. Itself is a pretty strong unit when it hits Vet 3. I find it pretty annoying to deal with. And its survivability is something that's pretty good. So overall, just because of its impact on the battlefield and how it helps, I would immediately give it S tier.
Yeah, you're not breaking a front line with this. You are shattering the front line with this.
Yeah.
Like, so your other infantry can push up. And it's not fun to play against, especially when they throw down smoke and you don't realize what's going on. It's like, they threw down a whole line of smoke, and then you just feel death come down upon you. Yeah. So yeah, I would say the lowest of S, because it does require a bit of setup, but that setup has a really high payoff.
Okay. So if we're doing
we can do the finals, like move things around for S.
Okay.
So
the reason I'm kind of doing it is just because we don't have titles on it, so I'm trying to make sure we know where each one is.
Well, that's easy. The Luftwaffe is C tier because it's trash, and the other one has the little red hat cat. Yeah, that's an S.
All right, let's talk about more trash. Ostruppen. I'm joking. Ostruppen.
Don't talk down on Ostruppen. Ostruppen, I think, should be pretty high. But let's continue.
Yeah, I mean, again, they did make some alterations. It used to be Battle Phase 3. I believe the last time we talked about this. I think they changed it to Battle Phase 2. It does have a Panzerfaust, so it does hurt armor. Like, again, it can stop it. It can build bunkers. The big issue with this thing is the fact that it is not meant for great assaults, because it just lacks a lot of... It's good in cover, let me be very clear. Like, it has definite pros in cover, but I don't think this is the... Unless you use a lot of them, because there are 200 manpower, they are cheaper.
There's the caveat right there. Are people going to use a lot of them? And the answer is yes. When you go an Ostruppen doctrine, you go nothing but Ostruppen. And that is the thing. Unlike a lot of other infantry, like, let's say, your Grenadiers, your Volksgrenadiers, your Obosodan, like, you can throw that into most situations, you're fine. For Obosodan, you throw them in with another Obosodan until you have a wave of Obosodan, and the enemy cries.
Not Obosodan.
Oh, Ostruppen, sorry, yes, Ostruppen. You have a wave of Ostruppen coming at the enemy, and then the enemy either breaks or you break. It's really one of the two.
The double Ostruppen doctrines that I think of natively, the one has a repair functionality for armor, right? It has the repair bunkers, as well as artillery and stuff. So and also, I believe the artillery field officers with this unit, at least on one. So for me, you have two really, at least solid commanders that can help assist this unit in what its main thing is, at breaking fortified lines. That's the problem with Ostruppen, but the commander itself has fixes for that, whether heavy artillery or column artillery. So I think that...
I was going to say, also something to throw in is that this has the Panzerschreck, so that means it can snare. A lot of the problem with a lot of the infantry we haven't been mentioning...
Panzerfaust.
Yeah, the Panzerfaust. a lot of close range stuff like the Jaeger commando, the field officer, none of them can really fight when a UC carrier, a T-70,
Yeah.
I would say I would say a Stewart, but you don't see Stewarts anymore. Anytime you see a lot of light armor, they can ignore it. They
Yeah.
can't ignore Ostruppen, and when you have a lot of Ostruppen, the light armor is very much running backwards because you can just send them. Usually in a wave, the armor has to fall back because there's nowhere for it to maneuver.
I still think it's a good unit, but the problem is it's frontline. You need the commander abilities. You need additional stuff to support it because it's not going to take territory by itself. British in place, good riflemen with bars. These things are cracking that. You need a bar, you need a Werfer, you need something else to break that line, and then they move up.
Yeah, the best case is to overwhelm early infantry against the allies. Hopefully, you knock out an ambulance or knock out whatever retreat point they have. So swarm it, knock that out, and use your infantry advantage to allow you to then go into your better infantry later in the game.
Yeah.
Or your whatever you're going to win with. Brumbars, Panzerwerfers, Panthers, you name it, Tigers.
Yeah. And again, you have to wait.
Yeah, sorry.
You have to wait to get that upgrade for the MG42 until Battle Phase 2, so it does take a little bit of time. So I think low A tier is fine for this unit.
Yes,
it can be very good, but...
You can trust Ostruppen. No, really, you can.
All right, Panzergrenadiers. This one's going to be interesting because they did alter it slightly because they changed Well, I'm thinking of the commander that allows it to have an assault package along with the Pioneer. The Pioneer can get a satchel. I mean, that's good, but I believe this gives the Panzergrenadiers smoke grenades?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, again, it already has the bundle. It already has a passive combined arms ability, which is why if you see Panzergrenadiers running, it's a Vet 1. If they're near a Panzer 4, let's say, they'll get that boost. And they'll also be harder to hit. So that's why you see them a lot of times with an armored thrust, which makes them much more deadly.
Yep.
But yeah, they, again, have additional received accuracy buffs for them. Weapon cooldowns, additional accuracy against, especially Vet 3. They are very good. Again, they might be close to medium range, but they are very good at murdering infantry from medium range.
I've seen these things kill long range infantry on occasion. So like it might say medium, it might say like it has a range of 40 or whatever, but like I have seen these suckers gun down so much, like gun down my squads from half a click away. So yeah, they're good.
Yeah, and again, they don't need an upgrade to get that. They can get an upgrade with Shreks, which makes them very good. And I think the Shrek blob is something that is a genuinely a threat to allied armor. Doesn't matter what you are, you need to make sure you have good armor, heavy armor to deal with a blob of that, or artillery. Otherwise, they're going to murder your Sherman. They're going to murder your Cromwell, whatever it is.
They're also they're also good enough that people have literally formed strategies, which I have even covered on this channel. Yeah. The Panzergren stall, which is you just build MGs, you stall out the enemy infantry up until you get these, and then you can dominate with them because they're, again, early to mid-game, when you don't have the fully barred up riflemen, the fully brenned up British, these suckers hit hard, and they can punch through a line really easily just with a little bit of smoke. So...
Yeah. All right. So, again, I don't want to put too many things in S tier, but I do think, especially when
these are clearly the S tier. If there's anything I want to argue at the top of S, these are the units. Okay. This is the unit I will argue deserves to be an S tier based on fear alone.
Okay. So how about we make a deal? I'll move Grenadier to the top of A tier, and we have these at the top of S tier.
Yeah, Panzergrenadiers, their flexibility, their upgrades, their potential, the fact that you always have access to them when you're playing the Wehrmacht.
Yeah.
Easy S. Easy S.
Okay. So we have 2, 3, 2, 2. So I would say a pretty good assortment of where everything is. Nothing too... And again, this is from our 4v4 mindset. Maybe some of these change in a 2v2, 1v1.
Someone says 1v1. Panzergren suck in 1v1. Don't know what you're talking about.
G43s. They also get G43 upgrades with some commanders, which makes them better at longer range, which is even more horrifying when they have additional accuracy bonuses. So there you go for your nightmares. But yeah, all right. So we'll now incorporate the OKW into the Osteer and see how that looks like.
Starting with everyone's favorite.
Yes, the Sturm Pioneer. I think this is going to be an easy A tier.
Yeah.
Because the Sturm Pioneer has a lot of benefits that the Pioneer doesn't. It can hide its Minesweeper upgrade, right?
Yeah.
It does.
It can upgrade. Not like commander specific, but you can get the flamethrower as well.
Yeah, I prefer mines that are more general oriented for cheaper, and I like these mines better. They're 30, solid against anything. Barbed wire is also good against infantry and armor, light armor specifically.
You have commanders that give them tank traps as well, like the Luftwaffe, where you can just seal off an entire side, just like an American, and not have to worry.
Salvage is pretty good, all things considered, for getting that low extra fuel. Decent repair rate that gets better. Although I don't think unless I'm mistaken, I don't believe this repair rate's as good as the Pioneer. But still, I think it's pretty solid, all things considered.
The best close range, or the best close range standard infantry at the start of the game, bar none.
Yeah. I also think that this thing has even though a lot of people don't use a concussion grenade, I've seen it used more, especially when this thing gets high vetted, because it does become cheaper.
The concussion grenade is also very, very potent at allowing other infantry to get the shots off to make the battle even. Like if you're running against commandos, right? Throw the stun grenade, your 2 grenadiers can wear down that commando up until the point where you have a fighting chance or win.
Yeah. And then Vet 5, it doesn't take that super bonus that would infantry heal something that it takes. So it's immune. So it has a higher chance of survivability, essentially. So yeah, but it can be upgraded with a Shrek as well, which makes it good against armor. So I think it has a lot of versatility, and like you said, early game it's great, but I do think in the middle and late game, Sturm Pioneers can have some issues, even with high veterancy, versing better infantry. But I think for the cost of 300 manpower, it's a pretty good investment.
Also, keep in mind the kind of plays you're using with this. If let's say you deploy a Kubel, like the fact that you have very potent frontline infantry, you can heal close range. Like the Brits, that when they deploy the UC, they don't get there. You have to wait a little bit longer for your healing units. Meanwhile, these guys can just pop on out. You can get a Kubel. Yes, the Kubel isn't good as the UC, but you can heal it constantly, so you can keep it in the fight. And then the moment you need them, though, they're not as good against open terrain. So like something like steppes, they're worse. But you get it on like anger mood or like I don't know, close range urban combat, city 17 in some situations, right? Like the enemy turns the corner, or you jump in a building right beside them, the enemy's gonna get melted. So yeah, these are easy, solid A tier units. That fall out late game, but still have a function. Like they still can do something compared to where I'd say a Pioneer, the fall off is much more immediate.
I agree. So I think now, do you think this is better than the Grenadier for the Osteer? That's the only A tier I'm thinking.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think that's because the trade-off is a weaker Volk, but we'll get to that later.
Yes. All right. So next up, we have, and again, I know I kind of maybe jumped the gun with the S tier of the Grenadier, but it is a very solid unit that I personally enjoy a lot. So anyway, the Sturm Officer, let's get to that, because I think like this thing is maybe not fared as well. Again, it does have the forced retreat, which I think is the most common thing you'll hear about this officer. It does have the target them, which you can focus fire on a squad to kill it, and that's definitely effective when you have high range infantry like Fallschirmjagers, Hobelsoldaten to murder a unit.
This also comes with the Panzerfusiliers. Usually you see them a lot, like when for the doctrine that's in. So it's a nice little bonus to them, because you're really in those types of allowing the Panzerfusiliers to take most of the damage and like inflict most of the casualties. This is just buffing them and helping them a little bit. So it's not that front line, but for the commanders that it's in, it's the kind of perfect buff for the frontline units you're going to be using. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Again, it does have some bonuses to get additional, I believe, additional weapon for the officer at Vet 5, as well as some additional abilities. Again, I think it's fine. And again, by fine, I mean it's a very good support unit, especially the retreat. I think it's a very solid, cheap retreat that you can use.
Absolutely.
I
You
think
put this
this.
down on a machine gun, and the enemy retreats that, and then you can allow your Panzerfusiliers or your Volk to go through and just wipe the floor if
I think
they have no defenses.
I think the Soviet retreat might be slightly better, but
Yes, but
yeah.
I mean, a retreat's a retreat, and if you have access to it, you're going to use it.
So for me, and again, just because it used to have a huge debuff when you killed it, everything retreated, right?
That was that was so good when you got that.
Yeah,
it was so satisfying. But yeah,
they
it
removed
doesn't have
that.
that nowadays.
Yeah. So for me, I would probably put this as again, it has a lot of good utility, and probably another A tier unit.
Yeah, I'd put it at the bottom of A tier. I don't think it's as good as the other officer, but I certainly think it's better than the one we've placed in C. So I would say the bottom of A.
Okay, and I actually that's where I was thinking too. Okay, so next up we have ourselves Fallschirmjagers. Now they have had some changes because originally they had a Panzerfaust. That has been removed.
Yeah, these suckers now cry when they see a T-70.
Yep. Now they maybe not. They still have that smoke grenade, which essentially is like a white phosphorus variant. So if armor gets in, it can't fire, right? It can't direct fire.
30 munitions though.
Like, true, but again, if you do it, it does.
Yeah, you buy yourself some time.
Yeah, a little bit of time to maybe get out or something. As well as it does get native healing abilities. It does have like a first strike option. It's when it gets higher veterancy, these things become monsters, especially when they're. Even though they did make it like an upgrade, right, to get the most firepower, I still think they're pretty strong without it, which might be a different thing to the Obersoldaten.
Also, keep in mind they have a good combo with the smoke grenade. Like, you throw a smoke grenade on a point. Let's say an American rifleman runs in, or like let's say you're fighting an American rifleman. You throw the smoke grenade behind them. They retreat. They get stuck in the smoke. You chuck the bundle, and then you hear the American commander or the American player cry as their unit dies. So there's some nice combos you can put to them. They are very potent on ambush, and they are good at most ranges. Like, you're not even sad when these things get close range, like against riflemen, because they're like, yeah, I'm gonna be at a deficit, but it's not the worst, right?
Yeah, I will say as well, their cost. I believe when they were like 1440 or something, like super expensive. Now they're
440. Yeah.
So now they're 340. So they're less expensive. They're on the same. They're essentially on par with Obersoldaten with that kind of cost. Obersoldaten have a couple small differences between them, of course, but I think that just because we've had to deal with so many blobs of these things and how deadly they can be, for me, I think that they go into S tier. I think that they are extremely powerful for what they are.
I would say I would say the field officer. I would say if we are going to put it in S, I would put it mid, because Panzergrenadiers are more open to all units, right? And while the Fallschirmjager is doctrine specific, and it's got a few like negatives to keep it from like going to higher. The reason why I wouldn't put it lower, or I should say, the other reason why I would keep this from going any higher is because, like, compared to Obersoldaten, right?
Yeah.
Though you get these a little sooner, but Obersoldaten are better. Like, it's kind of it's kind of like you want these mid game. You don't want these late game.
Yeah, they can have some...
you just want them in surprise or like advantageous battles. You don't want these fighting like the best out of the Allied infantry.
Yeah, they can have some issues there. I will also say they do have the ambush quality to them. Like, they do have a solid, like, pop out of the bush, murder your 2 or 3 squads of these guys, murder your infantry, and just run.
Well, that's the point when they used to blob them. It's usually you would, like, let's say a random rifleman with bars walked across 3 Fallschirmjagers. The Fallschirmjagers would gun them down, and then you would just have one less infantry unit, and you just, like, you just wipe, and it would work out. It's not as common anymore, mainly because, like, you don't see Fallschirmjager blobs to the extent, like, because of the nerf to their the Panzerfaust, and there's little meta changes. You don't see that as much in 33-4, but they are still potent. They are still good. I do agree they either deserves low S or high A.
Okay, so how about...
I will put it in the middle of S, and we'll decide the rest from there on.
Because next up is the Obersoldaten.
Oh, so I think So
I
sit
think
on
this
your
is
ass.
second. Yeah. My only thing is for the STG-44 upgrade, right?
Yeah.
Or the was it the LMG upgrade, which you get one. Which is fine if you pick up something else, but you only get one.
Yeah.
It does cost 80 munitions, or so it does have
Yeah,
some issues.
it is worth it though, 100%. I
Yeah.
used to be like STGs all the way, but like the more I've played, I'm like, no, yeah, just go. Sometimes you just want to stick with that one upgrade because dang, it can gun down.
Yeah.
It's really potent, especially in long range engagements. You can really stand up to the best of the Allied infantry with these suckers. And even 4-man squads, you're thinking, oh well, if you lose 1-man squad, you're kind of out of the fight. Now these guys still hold on, so
Yeah.
This is late game infantry at its finest. They're going to stand up. They're going to be very potent. They have good abilities as well when it comes to their grenades, their booby trap, specific like capture points like that. It's
Yes.
a nice little addition. And you can easily blob these because every OKW player has this, so you can get this. Like Fallschirmjager, you're kind of stuck behind using a specific doctrine. This you can do with any commander. So the only problem is you're just waiting until you can get that headquarters unlock, right?
Yeah.
But once you get the flak building down, then you
That's
can
fair.
unlock these.
Fallschirmjagers deploy earlier typically than these.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now I think if these are, by the way, again, they have the increase. Vet 5, these things are monsters chasing down your infantry. They have native healing. Like, they have some very good perks. But just thinking about it, if I enter... Yeah, it doesn't have a snare, but again, still has that grenade. Plus, it has booby traps, so it has one more positive to it. Yep. So I will say this: they are the better Fallschirmjager. So if we are looking at the Fallschirmjager,
yep.
And even though it's good for its early roll, but if we are to look at that, do you want me to move that down to A tier, the top of A tier?
I would say yes. Fallschirmjager should go to the top of A tier.
Okay, we have 6 things in A tier. And it's either for me. I think the Sturm officer or the Ostruppen need to move down to B tier, the top of B tier. But I think they need to move down to make.
We'll put the officer. We'll put the officer.
All right. Because next up, let me make sure I got the right unit. Because again, I don't want it to be too top heavy. All things considered.
No. Yeah. No. Well, because none of these are bad. None of these are objective. Yeah. I think there's a lot more bad Allied infantry because there's more commanders. There's so many bad, like, why do you want this? Or who would ever choose this? Or the Germans, there's less, so, like, they kind of by necessity have to be better, or, like, they were kind of grading on a bit of a curve. We'll get there, yeah. We'll get there when we get there. But yes, next.
Okay, let me, I'm still trying to confirm. I think the next unit, sorry, again, we're kind of going on some things, and unfortunately, some of these...
Next is the Panzerfusilier.
Okay, thank you. So we got the Panzerfusilier. Again, very strong. They get the flare. Yeah. They get a nice, I guess, cheap sprint, which, okay, cool. The rifle grenades, which is better than the normal Faust because of its range.
Yep.
And they also get a solid, I wouldn't say solid, but it's a fine grenade. It can do damage. I wouldn't say it's the best.
They start with Kar 98s and then have the G43 upgrades as well, which are... very potent. Like, if you're going this commander, if you're going, like, was it Breakthrough? Yeah, Breakthrough. You want to grab these suckers. Usually want to get the upgrade as well. Usually get these early. You don't get the bulk. So they have a good snare, and they've got a good range to the said snare.
Flare. The flare's the best part about these units. The OKW cheap recon that you can't shoot down is superb, especially if you combine it with other armor like the Jagdpanzer or the Jagdtiger. For their full capabilities.
The main point is, like, for these frontline infantry units, they have the snare, so it's not like you're sacrificing, like, assault grenadiers. I keep harping on them, but, like, assault grenadiers, you don't get the snare. These long-range specialty, but you get the snare. So if, like, a UC throw comes up or an AC comes up, you got something to deal with it. Yeah. So you're not left out of the hook, and you can upgrade these with Panzerschrecks. I don't know why I never do. I would rather have like a Raketen knock out my vehicles, but hey, if you want that option, you got it.
The G43s, I think that like you said,
preferred package.
Preferred package for these units. Again, no building functionality like a lot of the ones I mentioned earlier, but again, I think that's fine. I would put them in A tier. I think they're worse than Fallschirmjagers, but Would
I
you
think
say
they're very potent early on though, and they are a good like against the British, against like
Oh, you need to upgrade them. I
yeah,
will
yeah,
say.
absolutely. Because you get the 6-man squad then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely need to upgrade these. You need to make sure that they're much more fragile early on, but like the late game potential of these units is very high. Like a lot of infantry units don't scale well to late game, as we've discussed with the Pioneer or the Sturm Grenadier.
Yeah.
These actually are pretty good. And when you get like a higher Vency, you get those upgrade packages, you keep these alive for long enough and they can do damage in the late game. Again, especially like in a heavy heavy cover kind of standoff kind of map, like a Port of Hamburg where you're going from heavy cover fighting for the fuel constantly.
Now here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
To me, and I know this, we might be moving them down, but if I'm looking at like cost benefit analysis, if I'm looking at a unit that like what it does, these to me, between these guys and Grenadiers, right, these have a higher potential than Grenadiers, but they start off lower than Grenadiers.
Yes.
So for me personally, in a lot of their like upgrades, while they do again get a nice I think it's a healing, right? No, they don't. They have superfluous, in my opinion, like Vet 4 and Vet 5 upgrades. They can capture territory 15% faster, and they unlock the sprint, which is 5 seconds for 15 munitions. They're not exactly high tier.
They do get a heal though at like veteran C4, veteran C5.
Or maybe these are just slightly outdated, but the Jaeger command squad has a cheaper flare from what it says, unless I'm again mistaken.
No, but like
also
you're using this for like, keep in mind also what you're using this for. The Yag Tiger, like you're gonna spot with this. Like there's the innate spotting, the recon flares. Like there's a lot of like little benefits that you get with these that you don't get with like Grenadiers. And I think that's why I would give them a slight edge. Because yes, they're weaker early on, but for what they're supposed to do, which is be frontline infantry, long range focus, late game scaling, and like a nice variety of abilities, I think that there's a reason why you don't start out the game. Like you have to choose the commander and pick this early, whereas you're kind of everyone's given the Grenadier. So I would give the shine to the Panzerfusilier over the Grenadier. Not that the Grenadier is bad. It's not. I'm just saying that because it's doctrine specific and like you have that late game potential is why I would value one over the other.
That's fair. And I think it does beat the Sturm, because I think the Sturm, for its role, is just fantastic at what it does in terms of healing. Yeah, so what's the next thing?
The next thing is the Volksgrenadier squad. Yes.
Which again, they have some solid stuff. These units have changed a lot over the lifetime. Now they start off with STG 44s, right?
Yes.
They do again get
for the upgrade. For the upgrade, they don't get them off the bat.
Yeah. They get incendiary. They get a foul salvage. You're not building anything with them. That's anything too instrumental. But
you have plenty of upgrades you can get, like these throw incendiary grenades. They can't, like certain commanders, you can get a normal grenade thrown this. Certain commanders, you can get these upgraded with like close range assault packages to make them like devastating. My problem is that nobody wants them late game. My problem is that they very much fall off super quickly. Like, I'm talking like maybe 20 minutes into the game, you don't want these suckers around anymore.
They're good for Fausting, right? They're solid for holding off armor.
They're good for Fausting. Hey, Panzerfusilier is also here.
But I agree with the late game potential. G43s on Panzerfusiliers, Fallschirmjagers, Soldaten, they're gonna definitely be better. Volk squads are good, but against riflemen with bars, commandos, conscripts that are 6-7 men, they're gonna have trouble, right? So maybe I could see them, if I'm going through everything,
I'd say B. Honest to God, the more I've used these, the more I felt like they're just not as good as like other standard frontline.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. By the way, if I'm missing something that they can do, I just realized I'm on the Osteer faction for the dev mode, so that might be why I'm not looking at a couple
you're
builds
missing like
or
that.
something like that.
Like you're missing the Vancy. Like again, 5-star Vancy, good. Like the close range package is good, but like the problem with close range stuff, right, is like the more specialized you are for close range combat means that in a game like Red Ball Express, for instance, when you're fighting for that side, the enemy has bars, they have
Yeah.
Brens, they have snipers, anything long range, you're gonna have harder and harder time to fight that. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if you're holding a defensive line, sure, these are good for when their enemies charging at you, or if you can throw smoke down and get close. But like,
So upper B tier is what you think.
yeah, I'd go B. Like, if not B, I'd go mid B. Like, I don't mind putting these like mid B.
How about better than the Sturm officer? Sorry, worse than the Sturm officer, but better than Stormtroopers.
Yeah, that seems
Okay.
like a perfect choice for me. Like, I used to be warmer on these guys, but like normally you just really want to get that Ostruppen or like Fallschirmjagers, Panzerfusiliers, anything else, anything else.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. All right, so I guess we're gonna go to the last unit, which is the JLIs.
Yep.
Okay, so the JLIs, they have a couple of the same issues I have with the, and again, you get them through a commander, which is the scavenge, right? I believe. So if you get through scavenge, it's already not the best commander, in my opinion, for 4v4s and 3v3s.
Doctrine
you
Lock
get-
is. eh.
I mean, you do get a native sprint, which I guess you can use. Cool, but and also they're better at camouflage. I wouldn't say that they're the strongest, but they can definitely do damage with their upgrade G43s, right? They can
Yep.
definitely snipe infantry. Looking through here, they have the same issue where they get a first aid kit for 10 munitions at 1, which okay. There's medics with your bunker. There's medics with the OKW with the hospital that you probably would put in your base if you're really worried. They can booby trap territory, which is fine. And again, I see them
So
being
can
like
almost done.
I see them in the same kind of mindset that people used to go like Mass Pathfinder, right, for helping snipe, especially long range with bar finders.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like their defense is where probably you want. They have good camouflage, I'll admit, but I think they're the weaker variant of the Fallschirmjager.
I think these are good against Brits because of their G43 rifles, but
Yeah.
minus that, like, Like, if you're fighting, like, good at getting some infantry, but like they don't have a snare, they don't have, they
No.
can easily get like, they can. You can get run over easily by vehicles and not like you have that folks. Yes, you're good against the Brits, but the Brits are already like a bit
Weaker.
yeah, then a lot. Like you're probably gonna see more than likely see a front line of conscripts or riflemen than you are Brits. The assault infiltration grenade is good, but it's not fantastic. Like on the front line, I'd rather have Panzerfusiliers than these guys.
Yeah. All right,
Not that they're
so
saying they don't have their spot, but like,
okay. In the 3v3, I can already hear 1v1 guys yelling at us. But there's 3v3, 4v4. We rarely see people use a lot of JLI. Could be the commander as well, but it's just not.
Yeah, definitely Scavenge and Overwatch are better in a. I'd say Overwatch is better in 3v3 or 4v4, but Scavenger, no one chooses that in 3v3 or 4v4.
Yeah.
No one's like, oh yeah, you know what I want? I want a mid-game verbal vind.
Also, their potential's good, but also
Awesome.
their starting point's a little also down there.
Yeah.
So this one's tough because I could see. I'm trying to think of what use you would do.
35 to heal a turn, which is, not as bad as some others, but
You
they're
know what?
more expensive.
Do you want to just put them at the top of C tier and leave it at that?
I mean, we're gonna get a lot of angry comments.
Sure,
so
why
I
not?
100%
Top of C
approve.
tier.
I 100% approve because I don't I will play Overwatch, but I won't play with the GLIs. Like maybe if I'm fighting Brits, but
Okay. And
Yeah.
just to even things out, the Ostruppen is the last thing I have in A tier, right? So do you mind if I move that to the top of B tier?
my heart cries a little bit, but I understand. I understand.
'Cause now we have-
Specialized. Understand.
Now we have a perfect a perfect chart that looks like I'm giving the finger to the audience, so it's perfect. It's Panzergrenadier, it's
Yeah.
Soldaten, and the artillery field officer for the top 3. We got
Yep.
Fallschirmjager, Sturm, Panzerfusilier, Grenadier, and the Jaeger command squad in A tier.
Yep.
We got ourselves Ostruppen, the Sturm officer, the Volk squads,
Yep.
Stormtroopers, and Pioneers.
Yep.
For B tier. In C tier, we have the JLI, we have the Luftwaffe field officer, and we have the Askrens.
Yep.
Which is the closest thing to AS the Germans have in frontline infantry.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, they're, again, not saying that these units can't be good in special circumstances, but like, for the most part, for all rounding infantry, like something you want in most situations, or super helpful or game winning, you want to go just directly to the S tier or go to the A tier. The others are just kind of like, well, I accidentally put this commander on. I guess I got to win with it, you know?
For the B tier, a specific role, right? For the Volk squads, they can be good in like more urban close range warfare or throwing up buildings and stuff. Like the Stormtroopers, encirclement, the Pioneers, we've already mentioned, a lot of flamethrowers, Ostruppen, blobs. It's like they have the utility. It's just when you get to C tier, it's like, okay, but there's stuff above that does better.
Exactly. 100% agree with you on that one.
All right. Well, anyway, any case, guys, that's going to be it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. This has been Greyshot117.
And Greyshot151 here.
And we'll see you next time where we're going to cover the Allied infantry. All of the frontline forces for the USF, the Brits, and the Soviets.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. See you guys next time.
See ya.
Hello, everyone. This is Greyshot117. And before y'all go, let me give a special shout out to Patreon supporters Joey G240, Milam, BigChuche, Aphyria, Ace, PyroShark, Tony B95, Epic Pleb. Thank you all for your incredible support and helping me grow my channel and support my channel and everything I do. Thank you, and to the rest of you, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.